In this episode, we look at the life of the East Indians and Chinese on the sugar estates. Hi boys and girls, at the end of this week's lesson, you will be able to describe the life of the East Indians and Chinese on the sugar estates from the 19th to the 20th century. Describe the relationship between the indentured servants, ex-slaves, the African ex-slaves, and Europeans. And finally, complete at least 4 of the activities at the 8 learning centers. Settling on the sugar estates in Jamaica was not an easy task. In fact, the indentured servants were faced with many challenges, which included their living and working conditions. Figure 1 shows the life of the indentured servants and ex-slaves while working on the sugar estates after emancipation. Figure 1. So here we have one column that deals with the Chinese indentured servants, another, the middle one, that deals with the East Indian indentured servants, and finally the African ex-slaves. Let's start with the Chinese. Due to the long working hours and low wages, they staged a sit-down strike. It included few female Chinese. Well, I guess this is why they intermarried with other ethnic groups. They were housed in overcrowded barracks and were disappointed because the Europeans had not kept some of the promises in the contracts. And they introduced drop hand gambling. So the drop hand has evolved into cash pot and lotto and those games of chance. The East Indian indentured servants now, they worked for long hours, the wages were very low, the cost of the rations, that would be food, was very expensive. They needed a permit to leave the sugar estates. They were nicknamed coolies, so that's not a good thing. They accepted Christianity. They changed names to English. They received mandatory medical checkups for children some of the times, not all of the times. Some suffered from yaws, malaria, and hookworm. For the African ex-slaves now, they had more freedom than the Chinese and the East Indians. They participated in the conflicts with the Chinese and East Indians. So if they were striking for wages and so on, they would participate as well. They also received low wages. Nevertheless, they were better paid than the indentured servants, right? They felt that the indentured servants came to take their jobs. Now, you can imagine that they weren't really trusting of the East Indians and the Chinese, and they may even have looked down on them. It continues and it says here, of course, the relationship among the people of different ethnic groups that were also working on the sugar estates were strained initially because of the lack of trust. Some of the European planters instigated conflicts among these 3 ethnic groups. The fact that the Chinese indentured servants were the first to stage a sit-down strike on the Duckensfield sugar estate, the European planters employed African ex-slaves and East Indians to force the Chinese to work. However, by the 20th century, there was a significant improvement as the ethnic groups supported and participated in the activities linked to the other ethnic groups. Figure 2 now shows 4 activities that led to improved relations among the East Indians, Chinese, and Africans. So let's look at figure 2. So the activities: marriage, culture, costume, festivals. So with marriage, Chinese married Africans and East Indians. Culture, ethnic groups shared each other's music, dance, and food. Costumes, East Indian costumes worn by John Connor characters. And festivals, finally, African and Chinese participated in Hoseh and Diwali. So we can see that there is an integration among the various ethnic groups. Engage. Discuss the relationship that you have with your classmates. Is it always good? Why or why not? And at the heart of this question would be how people deal with challenges and conflicts and all of that. People are going to get on your nerves. How do you deal with that? So the same thing would happen on the plantations when you had a group of people, the Chinese, they don't understand the language that the East Indians or the Africans are using. What misunderstandings could come out of that? And how would they have dealt with those things? Explore. It says, access the internet and download, then view a video on the life of the East Indians and Chinese on the sugar estates. Explain. Complete figure 3 by writing beside each number one way in which the ethnic groups fostered relationships. So here we have the relationships among the ethnic groups. And if we tie this back to figure 2, marriage would have been one way. The costumes, the festivals, that would be one. Let's see, one more. The culture, we are sharing the culture. That would be another. If you can think of others, then definitely let us know in the comment section below. Extend. Write a story on the life of the ethnic groups on the sugar estates. Finally, evaluate. Complete at least 4 of the activities at the 8 learning centers. First one from the Faye Ellington Center, word link. Create bookmarks. On each, include an image of an East Indian or a Chinese indentured servant and a statement on the life of the indentured servant on the sugar estate. So now to the Dr. Agri Irons Center. It says, make a journal entry expressing your views on the relationships among the East Indians, Chinese, and Africans. Music link from the Jimmy Cliff Center. It says, write song lyrics on the life of the East Indians and Chinese while working on the sugar estates. Picture link. Create cartoons showing the relationships between the 4 ethnic groups that the 4 ethnic groups maintained. So you could show them at first quarreling, the disagreements, and then getting along. Body link from the Rex Nettleford Center. Create a model of the sugar estate. Include the cane fields, barracks, that would be the place where they live, sugar factory, and indentured servants. Make paper dolls depicting each indentured servant. So, you're going to have to put on the appropriate clothing for each of those individuals. Let's go with this one now. So it says, number link from the Albert Einstein Center. Create a Venn diagram below with the first letters of the list of words and phrases to compare the life of the ethnic groups on the sugar estates. Remember that the ones that are common to both ethnic groups should be written in the intersection, that is the section that overlaps. So here we have intermarriage, Jose, Diwali, farming, sit down, strike. Okay, so using these, look at all of those letters that are in common and you put them in each particular section. We know we're going to include a section that has only those letters specific to the word, and then we're going to have the area that overlaps. So that's a little integration here with sets. So again, remember the ones that are common to both, they should be written in the intersection. Social link. Use a digital device to capture the images of the model of the sugar estate and share the images in your email or your class WhatsApp group. Finally, the Dan Macaulay Center. Display samples of sugarcane, molasses, and bagasse that the indentured servants produced while working on the sugar estate. So, last week, we were supposed to have, in the last episode, last week's lesson, we should have a picture of the sugar cane. And I had said we could show from the cane top right to the root. This week now, you could show molasses. So some of you may have molasses at home. You could show some of that. And then bagasse. So bagasse is the cane trash. And we spoke about bagasse being used as a biomass fuel as an alternative to some of the fossil fuels that are being used now. So that's it for this episode. Let us complete the activities as best we can. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode.